Trapped in a high tower, a father forged an escape for his son. Wings of feather and wax.
He gave one simple warning: fly the middle path, not too high and not too low.
With a leap of faith, they left their prison behind, tasting freedom for the very first time. But the feeling of soaring through the clouds was intoxicating. The boy quickly forgot his father's words. Feeling like a god, he ignored the warning and decided to chase the sun itself. But the sun is a jealous god. The heat was unforgiving. The wax began to melt. His flight of fancy ended. He was no longer a god, just a boy beginning to fall. And the sea that was his prison became his grave. A timeless lesson on the terrible price of hubris.